A pleasure to me all at last, and welcome back to some more Nerf Secret Revealed Tears of the Clown. And now, this is pretty much without a doubt, it might be the last thing I might ever do to put it into a single video, because, as you probably know by now, there's a lot of things that have to do with me staying busy at all times. And so with that in mind, I proudly present to you the Accustrike series, one that had been started in 2017 with one goal in mind: to create the most accurate Nerf dart possible. But has it carried on very well, or has it aged very well? It's pretty much a yes or no on that whole entire thing. The spectrum that has in fact been provided with a large array of Nerf blasters released in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 are certainly things out there that we are not going to forget about. Especially because within the first 3 years of the lineup itself, showing us a lot of products. And so we are going to get started by putting ourselves in the good old tier list again, just like that. And so we're going to get started by talking about the Alpha Hawk, the debuter of the series. This is the one that started it all, you guys. And I will say, it's basically just 50-50. Either it's good or it's bad. It's not necessarily a clear shot by my count, because I've had this blaster for a while, and I was in fact able to get some good talks about it every now and then. But in any case, being a starter sniper, one that had a revolver sort of cylinder in it, bolt action that was probably not the best quality, and some tack rails and all that. Being one-piece blaster itself means that, well, because of how long it is, it certainly was difficult for me to fit into the frame of some of my videos. But when you saw the Alpha Hawk, then you knew that I was in for some serious business. At least for being the first blaster of its kind, it probably could get some slack. But yet for right now, we're just putting it in the C tier. Next here comes a point where I feel like that Hasbro hadn't tried hard enough to create something good out there. The Falcon Fire. As I've talked about with the Modulus line, the Ion Fire specifically has that sort of slide breach in which you'll load a single dart in, and the clickiness of it indicates that it also doubles as the priming method to allow the blaster to prime itself, so it'll be ready to fire upon returning the breach by pushing it forward. Then just pull the trigger and that's all you get pretty much. In the same way that I've talked specifically about the Ion Fire, that one was a total failure. In this exact conjunction, I'm not really seeing as much of a failure, but that's not at all something that's good about it. So in any case, I feel like that while it might not go all the way down to F, it sure is going to stick around in the D tier, whether you like it or not. But I feel like that we got at least one thing we can all agree on here: the Raptor Strike. Yeah, you heard me right. If you remember from the first top 15 best Nerf blasters I own video, as I've mentioned before that I've since made another one, so that's 2 top 15 best Nerf blasters videos, which counted down 15 blasters each, so that's 30 in total. But in any case, when we're looking at the Raptor Strike from the first video that I did several months ago, I basically mentioned that it's number 14 in terms of ranking, because let's just not forget the fact that being one of the longest blasters that one could have, period, the Raptor Strike was indefinitely impressive. Its design was quite unique, unlike many others that I've seen. It's got some great ergonomics. It has a pretty unique flip-up sight, which might not do any kind of thing out there. It's also got some great bolt action, complete with satisfying clicking effects. And it's also got its own unique sort of exclusive sniper-style 6-round clips, which are opaque on one side and totally transparent on the other, allowing you to see what amount of darts you have. And the version that I got specifically, and also part of the main reason why I feel like that this blaster would do much better than most of the others is because of the fact that mine, in particular, I bought brand new for only $17. Now, when you consider deals out there, whether on an e-commerce platform, a secondhand store, or a thrift store, or anywhere else in general that you might go out to find Nerf blasters, that's an incredible deal. And the fact that mine came with extra clips and a lot of extra darts really says something. The Raptor Strike I got, brand new back then, was amazing. So, by any means, it certainly was nowhere close to the majority of other blasters that I've shown from the first top 15 best Nerf blasters I ever owned countdown video. But in any case, this still is probably one of the best that the Accustrike series has to offer. And so, that's why I'm putting it up to the A tier. For a lot of other good reasons, but anyways. Now it's time to move on to the rest of the line, which will include the Quadrant. And the Quadrant itself, well, I mean, being a 2018 release and all that, it's pretty much more or less the same exact thing as what the Elite Scout Mark II, or Embosser, as I call it. And it's pretty much the same exact thing. You have yourself a 4-dart cylinder that moves along with the priming rod in the back, and then you just load it up and fire. But I will say, at least, it probably could have had some of the kinks done before it would become optimal for continuous use. If you were to pick this as your only blaster out there, you might have had a lot of time to consider, because there really are better choices out there in the market. While I might feel like this one is certainly not as bad as what a lot of other blasters from this line certainly are like, that's not really to say that it's supposed to be a good thing about it. The Falcon Fire might have only improved from what the Ionifier did with its breach on top that loads 1 dart and also primes a blaster, but the way that I feel about this in particular, the Quadrant in comparison to the Embosser, it's pretty much the same exact thing, just a bit of a different design to it. And so, we're putting it in C. Going back to amazing blasters though in this line, because in all seriousness, I've had a good handful of these Accustrike blasters. And now we're going to move on to what is called the Accutrooper. Yeah, that right there I feel like was a pretty big letdown. They didn't even try to change the name Alpha Trooper. They just went ahead and gave it the name Accutrooper to really try and distinguish it from others, because this is the 4th Alpha Trooper-esque blaster out there. It started with the Alpha Trooper CS18, then an Alpha Trooper for the Elite line, then an Alpha Trooper for the Elite XD line. How confusing could that possibly be? I mean, you don't need 3 Alpha Troopers to make it a good blaster. You only need 1. The N-Strike series keeps the name Alpha Trooper, and the other 2 I have given different names. But this one here is going to fall under the same sort of category, in which it gets itself a lettering. And so, Zulu Cavalier is what I've been calling it for a while. But in all seriousness, at least in comparison to most of the other Alpha Trooper-esque blasters that I've had out there, this one truly does so much better than all the other ones. And I'm serious. It's actually got some better sliding when it comes to its priming. Wow. It's sort of like a large handle that envelops the whole barrel, pretty much. But it actually feels a lot smoother than the others. I'm serious about that too. And the same thing goes with the fact that it actually comes with a good variety of different add-ons. You have a stock, which is very similar to what the Super Soaker Lightning Storm pretty much has. And then you even have a 25 dart drum with a bit of a slight recoloring as opposed to what a good majority of the other 25 dart drums had at some point. But to add all this together really does make for such an amazing combo. And so the Accutrooper Zulu Cavalier, sorry, it just seems like I'm never going to get over that horrible mistake that's so obvious. It should never be forgotten about. So, could call me a sucker or whatnot. a lot of things, as a matter of fact. But I'm sending this blaster up to A. Just amazing in terms of its performance and its functionality, and the fact that it comes with a lot of exclusive things of its own type. And now it's time to move on to the Stratohawk. Yet another reskin. This time it's of the Raptor Strike CS18, which did get a slight recoloration later on, which I've given it a different name as well. But the Stratohawk actually is pretty darn rare. I mean, I kind of feel like I'll never get my hands on this blaster, which is kind of a shame. I really would have wanted to have this thing around. It does have the combination of a long distance scope as well as a short barrel, not to mention yet another 25 dart drum. So I feel like that enough has been said here. The Raptor Strike only just got better, and I consider the Raptor Strike to be one of the best blasters of the Elite line as a whole. And so, you know what? Considering that this one's jacked up a lot, but the only real flaw to it is how rare it is these days, that I'll just never be able to get my hands on one. Unless maybe somebody would send it to me for free, but I don't see the chances of that happening anytime. Not sooner or later, just ever in general. But you know what though? Because I seriously love the Raptor Strike for what it is, this one's a major upgrade, and so it's getting an A. Just like the Zulu Cavalier and Raptor Strike. So we're getting a lot of high rankings as opposed to what most of the others are like. But it's time that we go down to some different territory, because as I mentioned before, the Accustrike series only ran so far, but it did at least split off into a couple of different tangents. First of all, we have the Rebel Accustrike series, which in and of itself came with 3 different blasters. Beginning with the combo, this is basically a bow and a blaster mixed together into one. You probably don't need to add too much else to it. You can put the blasters together to make one large blaster, or you can take them apart into separate pieces. So that would technically be just 2 blasters put into one, as they could both function on their own too. So at some point you might find only one of the parts to it, and you could still use it. As for the other piece, well, it is just the regular compound bow that holds darts. And I feel like that by now I might have proven my point based on how, well, compound bows or Nerf darts seem to work with me. They do not work well for me at all. And so, at this point in time, let's just drop it down to the C tier just to show that, well, not all bows are supposed to be spectacular, unfortunately. But next, let's get on to the Focus Fire. A bit of a different take on the Rebel line as a whole, but at least they were trying their best to keep up, even though the Rebel series eventually closed off. And so 2019, 2020, 2021, and here in 2022 have been a bit different without this whole line. Both of these lines are pretty much gone. Well, man, not entirely. It does seem like Accustrike is in fact going to be part of different lineups. And I do got a feeling that with this new trilogy of rival blasters, for example, they are in fact called Accu-Rival rounds. That's the kind of ammo that comes with them. So it does seem like Accustrike has blended with Rival, and now they're both fused into one, just like we have here with Rebel and Accustrike put together. But the Focus Fire pretty much get to B by this point. And then we have the True Point, which is the smallest version of them. I feel like that also gets a B, just because, well, in the same way that most other smaller size blasters pretty much work. I mean, there's a good reason why they're a lot cheaper in most ways. Because they can handle better and they are not as sizely. But then, of course, we got ourselves the Mega Accustrike series, beginning in 2018 with the Thunderhawk. And so, I'll just go ahead and put this right off the bat that, unlike what a lot of people might say about this, for a blaster that you could get brand new for only 30 bucks in a box, I'd say that's a really good deal. What you can get out of it is actually a good handful of different things. First of all, you have a bipod that is integrated into the blaster itself, that is folded to a point where if you wanted to try and aim it downwards, the Centurion's bipod would normally collapse upon itself, if you try to put enough pressure and weight on it. But in this particular case, the bipod legs are facing forward and not backwards, so of course you won't necessarily have the likelihood of being able to allow them to collapse upon themselves for any kind of reason. And then of course you have yourself a barrel, or well, let's just say it's sort of a kind of barrel, pretty much, because it's not technically a fully enclosed barrel. And the reason for that is simply because of the way that it gets put together to make it more compact in size. But even when it is in its most compact form, it still looks pretty bulky. And I can't necessarily be sure exactly why Nerf would feel the idea to having a non-closed barrel would have been better than to have it be slightly more open, because airflow could easily flow through these pockets and possibly interrupt the dart's flight trajectory. And if that were to happen, then there would be a good chance that it might not have a good flight all the way to the target that you're intending to shoot at. But when you really think about it though, the real big thing I find out about this is the fact that it has its own clip, very similar to what the Modulus Battle Scout is. Of course, you could probably find my video on that on my channel as well. But the point here is that this blaster entirely does have that same exact kind of clip, along with the way that it loads into the side, and that it automatically proceeds to the next dart to load into the chamber upon using the bolt on the side, which, like most other bolt pieces, they thread together rather than snap together, so they don't necessarily have to be a permanent attachment if you're not wanting it to be. Most of the time I keep them off for compact purposes. But in all seriousness, the deal that I got for this and the impressive functionality that I was able to get from this, despite these little flaws out there, they certainly don't even hurt this blaster even a bit. And when I can tell you that this is a good blaster, you know that you can in fact have a trustworthy source like myself. And so, we're sending this one up all the way to an A ranking. This is pretty much how good that is, you guys. And then we're going to move on to the Bulldog. That's pretty much just a Mega Accustrike blaster released in 2019. You could hold a few darts on the sides, you can hold a few in the barrels, and it pretty much acts like a deploy CS6 from the Nerf and Strike line. All you got to do is pull the stock outward, a foregrip pops out, and a sight pops out, and then you have the stock which will automatically lock into place. And then you can press a button on the side and cause everything to collapse upon itself, making it super portable to take with you, probably in your backpack or purse, wherever you like to take it to. You can be sure to keep this thing with you at all times for any reason. And so I really do ought to mention the fact that, well, it's not necessarily that great of a blaster. It probably is not really all the way up at the top. And the main reason is just because of the fact that, well, it's a bit small by my tastes. And the fact is that, well, having a priming rod as your way of being able to prime the blaster, it only has gone so far. There are lots of blasters out there that operate by priming by the use of a priming rod, which it's a bit of a carry-on to so many blasters nowadays that it's gotten a little ridiculous. But in all seriousness, I feel like that both the shape of the blaster and the way that the blaster just pops up into something much different than how it would normally be in its shape. And not to mention the fact that, well, if you wanted to keep this thing in compact mode, it would be a bit difficult to handle all at the same time. Also, because of the dart holder attachment that clips to the side of the blaster, it's not very strong, so I can't really carry mega darts around on it all the time without having a few of them fall off, even when I'm not even touching it. So that right there, it's a pretty good testimony to tell us that this is probably just down the middle, at least for me. So it's just an intermediate level of frustration. C is where it's going to be going here. And then finally, in 2020, we got ourselves a Big Shock redesign, known as the Talon. And I will tell you firsthand that, well, when talking about another blaster out there, called the Talon Strike. Yeah, you know what? Let's just cut to the Talon Strike right after this, though, because I guess I just didn't add it on right away. So, sorry about that. But anyways, the Tarot, as I've been calling it, instead of the Talon. Talon Strike, yeah. I just don't even know what else to say about that. So, trademarks are trademarks, and I am wanting to make change. That's just probably what the lesson should be here. And so the Tarot, I mean, at least for a bit of a different blaster in comparison to the Big Shock here, it offers a little bit more color than the Big Shock. It offers some more dart storage than the Big Shock. It even offers something different than the Big Shock does. And I can tell you what that one thing is. The fact that it's rather sucky. And so, you know what? I probably shouldn't go on it any further, because this is going to D. Definitely D. And yeah, we'll just do the Talon Strike right away. It's pretty much just a reskin of the Zombie Strike Side Strike, which in and of itself had also gotten reskins of this exact blaster in other lineups, like the Elite line, where there was a Kmart exclusive. But yeah, the Talon Strike is pretty much what you think it is. A Side Strike reskin that has Accustrike logos and the like all over it. But anyways, yeah. Since it's a good blaster, I feel like that it belongs in the B tier. And with that in mind, that pretty much wraps all of this up. And yeah, just for the record, in case you're wanting me to talk about all three of the Accu rival blasters out there, then well, I'm not going to, actually. I can't really be sure if that's actually supposed to be Accustrike related. And even if it was Accustrike related, I wouldn't even know what else to say about it. I mean, there's just been tons of things out there that might seem rather archaic or strange, but when you look at everything else that's happened so far, we really have a lot to consider. But in any case, thank you guys very much for watching this, and I will see you guys later on in May 2022. Expect things to get a little bigger when it comes to these videos. Tears of the Clown is going to get way larger as time goes on. And so if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.